So I finished watching the Kyoto Goodwill event arc last night, yeah. So I finished watching it last night, and overall, I think Jujutsu Kaisen is getting better and better every story arc and every episode. I'm going to try to be a lot more in depth with what I'm going to say and my thoughts about this arc compared to the last episode, because I feel like last episode was a little bit all over the place and not really have any structure, so I feel like I should be more in depth, you know? Since there's a lot of things that I have to talk about in the story arc, I'm going to try to separate this diary review that I'm doing into separate segments. So I think we should first start off with the plot of the arc and the events that happened in it. From what I've watched, the arc can be split up into 3 segments. First off, we have the pre-game and the early game stuff. I'm gonna lump them into a single segment because I feel like they flow naturally with each other. Then we have the mid-game and the fights between the 2 schools. Then finally at the very end, we have the big fight with the cursed spirit. To start off with the beginning, I completely forgot about this subplot with Yuji being people thinking he's dead at his school. So it's kind of really funny to see him try to reintroduce himself to his classmates, and none of them are impressed. That was actually pretty funny in my opinion. We also get to introduce to the Kyoto students. I'll talk about more about them later, but in their introduction they talk to their master, and their master told them about, to kill Yuji. This kind of continues and links with the previous arc, whereas the previous arc was about your feelings about killing others, and the sensei, or the master, was completely indifferent with trying to kill Yuji because he's Sukuna's vessel, so he believes killing Yuji would be the same as killing a spirit. So the Kyoto students are basically the antagonists for the first 2 segments of the arc, then they team up at the very end. This is a pretty good setup in my opinion. This is the first arc in the series where the main bad guys until the very end is other humans rather than spirits. So that's a really good change of pace in my opinion. Then the game starts, and it starts off with Yuji reuniting with Todo, or his supposed reuniting. I'll talk more about that later, but Todo is my favorite character so far in my opinion. He's really great. But the Kyoto students gang up on Yuji, and Yuji was about to die. Then Todo comes in and he's like, no, this guy is my fight, and you guys are not gonna interrupt this or I'm gonna fight all of you. So they kind of leave him be, and Todo kind of already ruined the plan. In retrospect, I think this is a kind of a hint on Todo being the strongest person in the Kyoto team, him threatening to fight the other team members if they interrupt Yuji's fight. I feel that shows the Kyoto students respecting his power and don't want to mess with him. I might be wrong about this, he might not be the strongest, I might be wrong, but that's what I think is if it's intentional, is a good way of subtly telling someone about what a character is like. Now that Todo is dealing with Yuji, the other Kyoto students start fighting with the Tokyo students, and we get to learn more about them. So the first of 3 fights that kind of happens before the climax starts is Mekamaru versus Panda. From these fights, I believe the main theme of this arc is your self-identity and your destiny, or what your supposed destiny is. Starting off with the Mekamaru and Panda fight, Mekamaru was first shown off to be a robot, or at least a cursed corpse that is like a robot, until later on we get to see Mekamaru's real body, and it's shown that he's extremely disabled. So Mekamaru believes that the only path he can choose in life is becoming a Jujutsu sorcerer, and to control the robot, which is the persona he adopts. but Panda, like being a cursed corpse himself, fights him, and he's like, dude, just because you're like, extremely disabled and your like body is like incapable of doing really anything, that doesn't really mean your like goal in life has to be a jujutsu sorcerer. Panda, is also kind of another outsider. Like, he's a cursed corpse, we found out in this arc, and like Panda like kind of sympathizes him a lot, but also gives him like really good advice, like, your disabilities doesn't define your path in life, doesn't define your career, and even when you're like can't really do much, that doesn't like make you not want to do your dreams. And at the very end of the day, we found out Mekamaru is not a completely bad guy at all the Kyoto students are not bad people, except the sensei. He kind of is a bad guy because he wants to kill Yuji. Oh yeah, we also get to find out what exactly is going on with Panda in this arc, and it's pretty interesting. It's revealed like Panda is a really complicated cursed corpse, and I think this is the first cursed corpse with like, its own will and its own personality, because all the other cursed corpses are like, completely mindless and designed to do a specific task. I'm going to talk about Panda later in the video, because right now we gotta get into the second fight. The second fight involves like the female students in both schools, and it kind of continues the themes of like self-identity and what your destined path should be. It starts off with Nobara and Momo fighting, and Momo was like really pissing off Nobara. Momo was like saying like, since we're girls, since we're women, we have to be perfect as well as strong, and if you're not perfect, you're not meant to be a jujutsu sorcerer if you're a woman. And this made like, Nobara really mad, because Nobara knows that that's completely untrue, and she's really strong and she knows she's not perfect. So Momo was kind of like spitting on her face on her capabilities. And it seems like the culture in the Kyoto school is like much more against women, it seems, because Momo completely believes that she has to be a perfect jujutsu sorcerer if she's a woman. And that is something we don't see in the Tokyo school. The fight kind of transitions into a completely different fight, which is pretty cool, and it's between like Maki and her like sister Mai. We get to see their backstory, and it kind of reinforces the themes of this arc as well. Maki left the clan a few years ago to pursue her life as a jujutsu sorcerer away from the clan. Then Mai believes that she is forced to follow in her path due to this, because they're sisters, and they're always together, so Mai believes she has to like, pursue the same dreams. Like, Mai is like really upset of Maki leaving, even though Mai doesn't have to like, pursue like the same path as Maki. She believes that it's her destiny now to do that. The last fight before the cursed spirit comes into the play is between Megumi and Noritoshi. They're both from different families and their ideologies clash. Like, Megumi is a pacifist and doesn't want anyone to get hurt, but Noritoshi believes he has to do everything he can to become the heir of his family, even like doing morally questionable things, like he really wants to become the next heir. It's reinforcing the themes a little bit as well again, like he wants to do everything he can to become the heir, accepting to try to kill Yuji and using dirty tactics to try to kill him. So yeah, I really like how every single fight we have so far has a theme going on with it. It makes all these like, disconnected fights feel very connected in a way, and I really like that about it. So now it's time to talk about the cursed spirit that comes into play. Their name is apparently Hanami, and they're a cursed spirit that's based off of like humanity's unwillingness to protect nature. So Hanami is someone that's like, really all about protecting nature and really hates humanity because it hates seeing like, nature being destroyed. They come in to attack and interrupt the fight, and it was like really sudden and really crazy. Toge also comes in, and it's cool to see Toge fight for once. Like, it's clear why he was like kind of saved until like this part of the story, because his abilities are like really crazy and powerful. Even when Megumi, Noritoshi, and Toge like team up to fight like the cursed spirit, they were no match to defeat this like enemy, and it's really like intimidating. But all of a sudden, Yuji and Todo comes in and they team up to fight the cursed spirit. We also get to learn about the Black Flash technique in this arc during the fight with the cursed spirit. I really like the concept of the Black Flash because it's like really hyped up to be this like extremely difficult technique that like requires lots of like, you know, concentration and, you know, skill. Like it requires so much like, you know, concentration to do black flashes that the record holder of it, which is apparently Nanami from the previous arc, said he can only do it like 4 times in a row, which is absolutely crazy. Yuji learned the technique and he's able to do it like 4 times in a row like the record holder, which is really cool. Yuji is just that guy. I really like the teamwork between Todo and Yuji, and their like moves and abilities really synchronized really well with each other. Near the end of the fight, Gojo comes in and uses his hollow technique purple against them. It's a little bit of an out of nowhere situation, but I kind of don't mind it because it's known that they're eventually not gonna beat this cursed spirit because it's a special grade. Even when they can overpower it for a certain period of time, it's kind of known they're eventually going to lose, so I kind of don't mind it. The conflict gets resolved, the sensei from the Kyoto school didn't reach his goals, and everyone is saved. And at the very end of the arc, they play baseball. Overall, I think this is my favorite story arc so far. It's just, it has a really good beginning, a really good middle, and a really good end. It's not too long, but it's also not too short. We get lots of time to explore new characters and explore pre-existing characters, which I really appreciate. And also we get to learn a lot more about Jujutsu sorcery in this arc, which I really appreciate. Now I think it's a good time to talk about the characters in this arc and what's my opinions on them. I think we should first start off with Todo, and Todo is my favorite character. He's just really fun. He's kind of like the mentor figure for Yuji in this arc, and he is like, you know, a really fun one. I also really like the gag of him claiming that he's Yuji's best friend during middle school, even though Yuji doesn't remember him at all. Like, we can't tell if he's telling the truth or not, or Todo is just over-exaggerating everything and Yuji just doesn't remember him at all. The two have like a really good dynamic with each other, and he's really just enjoyable. Todo is like my favorite character right now. We also get to learn more about Panda, and Panda is also starting to become one of my favorite characters. I really like the ability of him, you know, changing his body depending on what core is like active, and I am really wondering what like the third core of him is going to be. It's like, you know, hyping up for a specific moment, and I'm excited to see it. There's also Miwa, which I didn't mention at all during the story part of the video, but I really like Miwa. She's pretty funny. I guess she's quote unquote the Raditz of the Kyoto group. Like, she doesn't know much at all. Her ability at first seems pretty cool, but every time she uses it, it just doesn't work, and then she like, her sword gets taken and she get like so stun locked about her sword being taken, she's like frozen for like an hour or two. I really hope we get to see more of her in the future and see what she is actually capable of, because I'm really intrigued on her ability. I really like Mekamaru. He's also a Kyoto student that I really like. I really like the gag at the end of the arc where he's like a baseball thrower machine. I kind of don't have much to say about the rest of the Kyoto student and other characters really. I feel like we're gonna get more information about these characters later down the line, so I'm probably gonna save them more for later. So yeah, I think this is about it for now. I'm really excited to see what this story is going to, and you know, what's gonna happen in the future. I know this series gets really dark later on, so I'm anticipating some crazy stuff happening. So, thanks for watching, and see you next time.